let's go to the naturally inspired moment because we need this one today, let me tell you. I want to talk about strategies to teach us how to relinquish control. Are you a control freak? You got a little bit of control freak in you? I think we all do. I think we can all say we got a little bit of control freakishness in us. But here's what happens when we try to control everything. What it does is it just creates more stress in us because, as you well know, we don't control anything, right? We can do our best, we can plan, and we certainly should. We should have a plan, we should prepare, but ultimately, we can't control everything. So when we try to control everything, it can create a lot of angst, worry, fear, doubt, and that isn't good for your health. So it's really important to try to work on relinquishing control because control is actually a comfort zone. It gives us false sense of safety, as if the tighter we hang on to something, the safer we'll be. But the truth is, control often comes from fear. It comes of fear of failure. It comes of fear of rejection or fear of uncertainty, which the brain really hates uncertainty. So learning to release control doesn't mean giving up. It means choosing peace over panic and trust over tension. So here are 5 strategies to help us all loosen our grip and live with a little more flow. Number 1, acknowledge the illusion. So the first step is awareness. Most of what we try to control, people, outcomes, timing, is never really ours to command. Recognize where our energy goes when we try to manage what can't be managed. And that awareness just opens the door to acceptance, right? It's all an illusion. We can plan, we can prepare, but we all know some stuff may still go wrong. And every once in a while, when things go just right and you planned accordingly, man, I'm grateful for that when that happens, right? Because you're just like, wow, that just such gratitude for when things go off without a hitch, because it's rare, because we can plan, but we cannot control. So acknowledge that it's an illusion that you can control things. 2, shift from fear to faith. So fear makes us cling tighter. Faith allows us to release and be a little more in our flow. Whether it's faith in God, if you have faith in the process, or even faith in your own resilience, or all of those things. Hopefully, you have all of those things. Faith in God, faith in the process, faith in your own resilience if something does go wrong, faith that and trust that life unfolds in your favor, even when it's uncomfortable, and even when it shows up like a disaster. We can still say, okay, I'm going to be resilient through this, and I know that I will make it through. So remind yourself that you can trust the unknown. If you look back in your past, think about all the unknowns at the time. You thought, this is unpredictable. This is unknown. I don't know what's going to happen. And think about how they worked out. And use contrast to where you are now. Can you do that? Because I know I can do that. I look back to some of the most painful points in my life, and I can say, wow, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't probably be doing this today, you know? And I can do that with so many things. I can do that. Like, I remember when we were trying to buy this farm, we had a bid on another property, and that property seemed like a really good property, and it seemed like it was going to be a really good financial decision for us to buy that property. But wouldn't you know it, it didn't work out. And I remember feeling disappointed, like, but I had faith that something else would come along. And I think it was like 3 days later, we found this place. And let me tell you, so glad, right? So glad that other deal didn't work out. Like, thank you, Jesus, that other deal didn't work out, because I wouldn't want to be anywhere else but on this farm. So, you know, sometimes you just have to trust the process. Use a pause. This is really, really powerful. So when you feel the urge to jump in and fix it, to direct or demand or force, you know, like, I really want this to happen. How can I make it happen? And you start doing the mental gymnastics to try to do it. Take a deep breath before acting and ask yourself, is this something I can truly control, or am I trying to soothe my own fear? So that single breath creates space for better choices and calmer emotions. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't be a problem solver. right? But what's the motivation to solve the problem? That's probably a better question. Why do I need to solve this problem, right? Why does this need to go the way I want it to go? Would it be okay if I just kind of let go of this and let it happen the way it should happen? What's the worst what's the outcome here? Because we may be spinning our wheels for no reason. Number 4, build flexible routines. So structure creates safety, but it shouldn't become a cage. Create rhythm that supports your goals without rigid expectations. So morning rituals, meal prep, and time outdoors can help you feel grounded, so you don't need to over control others to feel secure. So I guess like when you start your day in a panic, I mean, there's a lot of people that, and I was one of them. I remember in my 20s for sure. And maybe we're all like this when we're younger, but you wake up like 10 minutes before you got to be at work. Oh gosh, I got to go. You jump out of bed, you grab something, that's a terrible. Can you imagine starting your day like that now? It's not worth it, right? The spike of cortisol that happens when you're just in a cluster like that. I used to, when I took my kids to school, for the few years that I did, they were at a charter school there for a little while when they began kindergarten and, elementary school. And I used to call it the morning hustle, because that's what it felt like. It didn't seem to matter how early we got up. There was always, somebody can't find their shoes, or, oh, I forgot to make the lunches last night. Or, there was just this like push to like into chaos every morning. Somebody's pants aren't dry, or, you know what I mean? There was and it always turned into this morning hustle. And it just kind of felt like, there's got to be a better way to do this. And I'll tell you, there was. It's called homeschool. And that was way better. Let me tell you, that was way better. They didn't have that morning hustle. So think about building flexible routines, but having a routine is so important to kind of, calm that desire to control everything. Practice surrender as a strength. This is a big one. Surrendering doesn't mean weakness. It's emotional intelligence in motion. It's actually the practice of your emotional intelligence. So every time you let go of the need to be right, the need to be first, or to force your way, force the outcome that you want, you're building spiritual muscle. So you're building that muscle to live in faith and to live in flow. And maybe even tell yourself, I'm going to surrender this. This is not something I need to control. The weird thing about control is a lot of the stuff that we think we are controlling, we're not. We're going out of our way to maybe please other people because we want to control how they perceive us. You're never going to do that. You're never, ever, ever going to be able to control how other people perceive you. So all you can do is work on yourself, right? Work on pleasing yourself, work on having respect for yourself, laugh at yourself and your growth where you need growth. I mean, I'm to that point now where a lot of things I do it and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm still doing this pattern. Like, when am I gonna, you got me again. Like I dealt with that the wrong way, or I did this, or I did that. It's like becoming comical to me. Because you just have to relax and understand that you're never going to be perfect. You're never going to be perfect, but you're going to be perfectly unique, which is kind of cool, in a world where everybody is trying to be the same. I mean, everybody's trying to inject their face to get the same lips, the same cheekbones. Everybody's trying to, look the same aesthetic on their Instagram page. Everybody's, follow the leader. It's pretty, I'm holding on to faith that it will actually become popular to not be popular on social media. You know what I mean? Like, because social media has become a narcissist dream, 27 posts a day of me, and with messages that aren't contributing to the betterment of humanity. They're actually contributing to the downfall of humanity. And man, I read that list yesterday, the fall of Rome, right? And I just couldn't believe how many of these markers that we see every single day now, and right in front of our eyes, right? On social media. People just have lost the thread, I guess you could say, of what truly matters in life. And even with the climate cult stuff, choosing to not have babies. If you don't want to have babies, don't have babies. But don't make the reason be because you're afraid the world's going to end, because some corporate gangsters sat around a conference table and came up with a marketing campaign called climate change to sell their products to you. If that ain't evil, I don't know what is, Anti-life is a death cult. If you're anti-life, you are in a death cult. You are in a death cult, AKA eugenics, And life is beautiful. You maybe need to do a reset and just, focus even on your own biology. Because I'll tell you, if you really dive into your own biology, you'll be fascinated with life. Absolutely fascinated with how this body works. How could this possibly be? It's a miracle. It truly is. You're listening to Naturally Inspired Radio. I'm Tammy Cuthbert Garcia. I'm so glad you joined me for the first hour. We'll be right back for the second one, so don't go anywhere.